Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's Rockman's Block Connection with the usually weekly comic book roundup. And now we'll be looking at this week's cosmic and, shall we say, other titles that I picked up. I'm going to start things off with Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel History number 5. So, where we left off, Frank, under the guise of Uncle Fredo, had a nice long chat after having a fist fight. We pick up after that. They've had a few drinks and they're cooling off, and dinner's ready. So, past and future Frank both, as well as the castle children, basically inhale their food while, yeah. Turns out, though, they're planning on going to the park the next day, and they've invited Fredo to come along with them. So, but he passed along the story of how he met the Avengers at a circus, carnival. Turns out this was a pre-Captain America. It's actually before the Avengers came along. But he made himself scarce and then made a point of making sure that Cap would be in the right place at the right time to be found by the Avengers. There's also an allusion made to there's a nod to the theory that Ant-Man was going to kill Thanos by going up his butt and expanding. And there's another story about Cap working with Frank working with the Avengers, and it gets a little not family friendly. And so he has to edit things and add in lots and lots of candy. Candy everything. And so future Frank goes and finds the mobsters that Frank's family will stumble upon, and is interrupted by Uatu the Watcher, basically explaining that this is one of the most important moments in history, especially with the way that as fast and loose as future Frank has been playing with time. Explaining that if the Punisher is prevented from existing, all of reality disappears. Time will slowly unravel until nothing exists at all. From the sounds of it, future Frank stops the murder of the Castle family. And we'll see the consequences next issue. Now, something I didn't mention. There's some really fun stuff in this issue with with Silver Age Iron Man. Basically, Tony Stark is a gold-plated booze hound, which is actually really quite cool. Anyways, moving on to Old Man Quill #7. Correct, the book that made the thumbnail. So, where we'd left off. With the help of the along with the Guardians, Peter Quill has been making quite the name for himself across the wastelands, trying to find the ultimate nullifier to stop the Universal Church of Truth. But he's garnering attention from both Doom, who's since taken over the United States, and the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, who now work for the Universal Church of Truth. So, the Guardians arrive at the outskirts of Electroville and find the skeleton of Loki with the Baxter building on top of it. They make their way in, despite the hologram of Willie Lumpkin telling them not to. And start exploring. In New Liberia, the capital of the Doom Empire, I'm just now noticing Doom's throne is totally made out of Ben Grimm. The rebellion is brewing, apparently. Madame Mask is being informed of this. Rebel attacks have risen by 22% in the last week, inspired possibly by the hero of Horse Creek. Also, notice the fact that Gladiator has shown up. Also, Captain America's shield has been stolen from the wreckage of the White House. And so, all the Doom boss gets sent after Peter. So they make their way through. Back to the Guardians. They make their way through the building and eventually make it to Reed's lab, where there's a Hulkbuster, slightly damaged Herbie, who pops up, noting that Star-Lord is a friend of the FF, though he doesn't make mention of the other Guardians. But it turns out there are Moloids coming. And so they do what they can to stave off the Moloids. They find the old Fantastic Copter, but it won't. Without the rear stabilizer, it won't fly. And Peter says they don't need it to fly. So they reopen the door to the hangar, and roll through with the rotor blades at an angle, chopping up the Moloids as they come. But they got to make their way out, and when they do, the Imperial Guard are waiting for them. Gladiator destroys Peter's element gun and says, "Well, it's honorable to follow your former comrade's dying wish. It's madness have gone out of one's way to join them. And then Peter remembers. Receiving a transmission as the Guardians died. And it turns out they'd been dead all along. Making for this book's oh shit moment. So far, every old man story has had an oh shit moment. For Wolverine, it was learning that he killed the X-Men. Or for Old Man Logan, it was finding out that he killed the X-Men. For Hawkeye, it was seeing the fall of the Avengers at Hawkeye, through Hawkeye's eyes. And now we discover that Peter Quill is imagining the Guardians as they're long dead. Anyway, moving on to Weapon Hex Annual #1. Now, okay, this is the second part of a 5-part story which will take place over the course of 5 secret warps or Infinity Warps annuals. Hopefully, by the end of the month, I'll have a copy of the first part, Soldier Supreme Annual #1. We'll see what happens. Anywho, apparently what happens in that annual was the Madam Hell ambushed Soldier Supreme, claiming to be conspiring with his teammate Iron Hammer. While working to uncover what weirdness is afoot, Stephen Rogers came across his morally dubious counterpart, U.S. Archmage, but their attempts to reconcile with Iron Hammer went awry. And no wonder, considering that the Madam Hell who attacked them was actually the shapeshifting Deathstreak, working to invade Earth with Dormammu Red and all the forces of Hell. 2L Hell, not 1. So we get a quick rundown of what Soul World is. And we start off the story in Siberia. Weapon Hex is facing off against the Mad Ghost and his ape droids. Or his awesome ape droids. The Mad Ghost is a combination of Red Ghost and Mad Thinker, and the ape droids are a combination of the Soviet Super Apes, I think that's what they're called, and the awesome android. But it turns out the Mad Ghost has another ace up his sleeve. The Machine Mandrill, which Weapon Hex promptly destroys. Turns out that Mad Ghost had kidnapped Speed Weasel, and Speed Weasel takes care of all of the awesome ape droids. And there's a little bit of but when she sticks her claws in his head, her magic claw, not like metal. Not killing him, but she learns what he learns. One, she sees the assault by the ape droids on her and Speed Weasel. She also sees her teammates, Soldier Supreme and Iron Hammer, and that Herbert Blackheart Wyndham, her father, is behind it all. Along with Red Dormammu and Deathstreak. But it turns out that Wyndham holds the Storm Sigil, weapon of the late Damon Gallows, a repository of arcane energy carved from the very souls of the famed Punisher Pack. And so Weapon Hex breaks up the fight between Soldier Supreme and U.S. Archmage, and then and Iron Hammer, and they go up against and then Wyndham appears, along with Dormammu Red and apparently Madam Hell, though Iron Hammer has a way to figure out if it's really Madam Hell or not. And she removes her mask and shows him her face. The face that only he has seen. Which, of course, kills the ruse, and, well, they're able to stop Deathstreak. And Dormammu Red. And Wyndham. However, it appears that all the hells are banding together for an invasion of Earth. However, they're probably interrupted by Captain Peace with the Time Flight Authority. And by destroying By destroying the Storm Sigil, the Defenders just caused the Martian invasion of Earth in the year 2099. And Captain Peace is a combination of Captain Marvel and Justice Peace. Now, we've got a backup story here as well. Late Dinner. So Weapon Hex and Speed Weasel are having dinner at a diner in Quebec. They're met by Detective Greer Baptiste. Apparently, Weapon Hex has information about the disappearance of Shirley Cartier, Greer's partner. And so we learned that Greer was mortally wounded in a Hydra raid, and picked up and found by the cat people from beyond the veil. She was offered a chance to save herself, to consume sacred ceremonial meat, which she ate out of blind desperation, only to realize after doing so that it was human flesh. And so she is now the enemy. Now she's the Catman's assassin against its human enemies. And it turns out that Greer ate her partner. And it's the best she's ever felt. There's actually a name for... But yeah, it's you get a combination. Wendigra. And so after Speed Weasel evacuates the diner, Weapon Hex and Wendigra duke it out, and Weapon Hex manages to free Wendigra of her curse, and leave a recording of the murder, of the confession. Next one is going to be the Ghost Panther annual. Hopefully, we'll be getting. Hopefully, I'll be able to lay hands on the Soldier Supreme annual soon. And moving on to Marvel Comics Presents number 6. Alrighty. First off, we return to Wolverine, the Vigil. Picking up in 1995. This is kind of a odd. Yeah. The story works, but doesn't work. It's that's why assigning particular years to events never goes well. We'll begin with Talisman of Alpha Flight. Who then contacts the X-Men. And apparently, Logan asked Talisman to set a magical tripwire along the weird ways so that she would know when the truth again tried to touch this world. Which it is. So, the X-Men go there. Sadly, though, they end up at Montserrat, the eruption of the Safir Hills. So, yeah, the fight between Truth and the X-Men and Wolverine is not going well. Manages to take down Cyclops, Talisman, Storm. However, the member of the current member of the Clan Darkness appears and takes care of the Truth. And Logan's pretty sure that it's his daughter. Moving on, we've got Deadpool in first appearance, Red Hot Rays. So we open up in New York in 1991. Deadpool's going after a guy named Rays, and he ends up slamming into a comic book shop. And the proprietor, with a striking resemblance to another comic book shop proprietor in pop culture, though I have no idea who it is they're talking about, explains that it's new comic book day. There's also a story about the 90s comic crash. In the early 90s, the comic book industry was in a boom period. Finding out that the comics they had thrown away or lost in their youth were now worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, speculators began purchasing comics in huge numbers as investments. As the publishers turned their attention to this collector's market, they began producing special variant covers with embossed foil, holographic images, glow-in-the-dark UV varnish, etc. Eventually, the speculator bubble burst when it became clear that a book selling millions of copies that were all bagged and bordered would not be as rare or valuable as the issues from the 1960s that no one thought to save. Amongst the comics that Wade has shown is Force Pack number 1. Yes, it's a combination of Power Pack and X-Force. And it's just as terrible. The explanation is just as terrible as you might think. And so Deadpool, with the assistance of Weasel, starts a comic book company on the roof of Four Freedoms Plaza. And yeah, sure, he's selling copies at the wazoo. Every issue is a first issue. And then he's attacked by. Turns out he has literally taken the image of the guy he was sent to kill in the beginning, Rays, and some buddies. And well, yeah. We also get some cameos from Nightwatch, Death's Head 2, and Sentry. Some of you are going to recognize those names. Some of you are going to scratch your head and say, who? Then he ends up slamming in the comic book shop, and, well, now things have bubble burst. Everyone so focused on special covers to make speculators think they were going to get rich. They didn't give readers enough to keep them coming back. Unreliable schedules, flimsy stories, all hype, no substance. And Deadpool just decides that it's time to do something different with Rays. Add more characters. Rays and the Man-Commode. Man-Commode. I have no clue how you would pronounce that. Next up, we've got Fade Away, featuring Ghost Rider. Now, something of note. I'm pretty sure that this story is actually set in present day, unlike the last two, which were clearly set in the 90s. So, Danny Ketch is the owner of the Fade Away pub in Brooklyn. And he realizes that he's coming. He knows there's a slight change in air temperature, the echoing sounds, and faintest whiff of sulfur. He got rid of the bike, spat in the demon's face, begged him to leave him alone. He even had him exercised once. He's died twice. Still, won't let him go. He was brought back from the abyss so he could be used over and over again. But then he becomes the Rider. So he ends up at Cypress Hills. I could have sworn Forest Hills, but anyway, which is where it all began. Apparently, there's a funeral going on. But at the funeral, everyone is miserable. Thanks to the demon known as Wallow. So what Wallow does is she basically makes everyone relive all the terrible, basically, relive all the misery that they've or amplified misery, so to speak. But she also talks about the things they've done. And so, but right now she's intangible, so Danny can't do anything to her. So he chases her down, she ends up on a bus. So he follows, gets on the bus, and he powers down. And says she wants misery and suffering. That's his entire life. He ain't got nothing but. So he drops her his knees and tells her to feed. But he gave her just enough so she could become corporeal. And now, well, he can hold her and hit her with a penance stare, which seemingly sends her back to hell. And he drives off. Now, this is why I'm fairly certain that this story is actually taking place in the here and now, in the here and now, as opposed from the 90s. She ends up in hell, where she faces the king of hell. That king being none other than Johnny Blaze, Danny's predecessor as Ghost Rider. And that is It's a much more recent development. Alrighty, that's going to be it for this batch. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. Leave a comment in the comment section down below if you want. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal are in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.